welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Noah, and I wanted to welcome all of you to another installment of Monologue Monday here on my YouTube channel. If you happen to be a returning viewer to this series on my YouTube channel, thank you so much for tuning back in. I really do appreciate it. With that being said, let's get into this episode of Monologue Monday. This episode of Monologue Monday is really about being very careful with your decision making despite where you might be on the economic spectrum. As far as the backstory for this episode of Monologue Monday goes, I was essentially doing a little bit of scrolling on my Reddit feed the other night, and I came across a headline that just kind of stuck with me. And I wanted to discuss this because I think it is very relevant for people in my age group, right? So mid-20s, I guess somewhat late 20s, however you tend to look at it. But essentially, the article was about the death of a actor that I had recently seen in a TV show that I had just very recently finished up less than a month ago. The show in this case that I'm referring to is a Amazon original, and the title of it is either Generation V or Gen V. I don't want to go into great detail about the show itself because I don't think it's too relevant for this video, but generally speaking, it follows The Boys, which was a very successful prime TV show as well. And both shows essentially cover what life might be like if superheroes were real people, right? And they had flaws, and they weren't good people all the time, and so on. So they're very successful shows, and that's the key thing that I want to mention as far as the shows go. They were very entertaining, not always perfect, but they're very financially successful, and I think a lot of people got a lot of enjoyment out of the shows. But the individual who was in the headline, unfortunately, was a main protagonist in the newer Generation V TV show. At this point, I can't recall the last name of the individual, but I believe their first name is Chance something. Like I said, they played a protagonist in the Generation V TV show, and I really liked their character and so on. And the gist of the story is that on Saturday, so yesterday, I believe, they were on a motorcycle ride and they died. Right? I don't know too many of the details. I think it's very early at this point, but the only details that I really know is that no one else was really hurt, and that they had purchased the bike less than 2 weeks ago, I think, at that point, and it was maybe one of their first times riding it, and they were doing whatever, right, a solo ride, or I'm not too sure, but they evidently they passed away on that ride. So I read this headline, right, and it really sat with me for a while, and I was kind of wondering why that might be, because I wasn't truly invested in it, right? It's not my favorite show by any means, and I didn't think it was absolutely incredible or anything like that, but it was entertaining, and I thought about that, why it was kind of why it stuck with me, because there's been so many other deaths through celebrities that I've liked watching when I was younger, and a couple examples are from the Harry Potter movies. There was the actor who played Snape. I can't recall his name at the moment. And then there was the actor who played Dumbledore, right? That passed away as well. And for whatever reason, although those deaths were sad and unfortunate, they didn't feel the same. And I wanted to know why that was, and I really ruminated on it for a little bit, and the best conclusion that I could come up with was that it was so recent. There were two things that I think made it stay with me a little bit more. And the first thing is that it was so recent. Like I said, I had just finished watching season 1 of Generation V less than a month ago, probably, and I was coming off of the enjoyment out of it and so on, and curious to see where they were going to take it, all of that kind of stuff. And then the second reason is that I think it was because the actor who played this character, Chance, we're essentially the same age. I think our birthdays were maybe a month apart, but same year and everything. And I think reading that made me really think back on myself, and how things could be, wildly different if you make one poor decision, or if you make a couple bad decisions. So at this point, I really started to kind of think about that loss, right? And this is obviously a finance channel, right? But I think of Chance in the position that he was in, right? So he had fame, stardom, and I'm sure quite a bit of money from the previous movies and shows that he had done, as well as his recent work on Generation V. So you take an individual like this where many people would kill to be in their position, and their position, whatever they're doing in life is just so sought after, right? Being a celebrity and being, having a lot of money from um, the work that you're doing. And for that to come to a very tragic end in an instance was something that I really thought about. And the key here is that this tragic end, that happened essentially instantaneously, came from one decision. In this case, rather, getting a bike and getting on that bike. So you take someone like Chance in this case, who really, if they didn't have the world now, they were certainly going to have it in the future. I think his trajectory towards, financial success, fame, success for his family and friends and so on was certainly on the agenda, right? He was kind of building himself up to the blockbuster roles, and I think it was definitely probably on the horizon based off of where he was currently at within his career. And to have that come to such a violent close from one decision is just a very depressing thing. But this, of course, happens to people on the other side of the spectrum, right? Individuals who don't have the fame, don't have the money. They too sometimes make one decision that can quickly change their life, right? Or it could even end it in severe cases as well. So, whichever side of the spectrum that you're on, I think it's really important to just make smart decisions. And a lot of times, the smart decisions don't tend to be the most exciting. But in this case, I think, opting out of something as dangerous as riding on a motorcycle would have been the more advantageous thing. So I think whichever side of the spectrum that you're on, if you're already set up for success, or if you're, kind of on your way to success, or if you are kind of in limbo, right? You don't have what you want in life and you're kind of working towards it. It's important to take this, honestly, kind of a tragic headline here, and try to learn from it, right? Learn from these unfortunate mistakes that people make, because we're humans. But nonetheless, they are mistakes, right? So generally speaking, I think the lesson that we can take away from, or at least that I've kind of taken away from reading this kind of headline, and that you can take away from this video, is that oftentimes the best decision tends to be the more safe one, or the more boring decision in the long run. And I know that's not exactly the most exciting thing to hear, especially when you take someone like Chance that, like I said, are probably living, at a different pace than a lot of people, right? The series, the second season, was supposed to start filming like this week. So he was probably, really excited for that and just living kind of in the moment. And I think sometimes when we are living in the moment like that, we can't, or we tend to make maybe slightly poor decisions depending on the way you look at it. But I think for a lot of normal individuals, the best thing that you can do from these stories and so on is to remind yourself that it's important to continue to work towards, the best version of you, the most financially successful version of you, of course, but to not let poor decisions kind of potentially hold you back, or to end things like they unfortunately did for Chance here. So I just wanted to make this quick Monologue Monday on this headline and kind of my thoughts on these type of tragedies, and why it hit a bit closer to home for me this time around. I think this should also serve as a subtle reminder to all of us, right, that are kind of working their way up in the world, if you're not there already, to really still be careful with the decisions that you're making, because one small decision in this case, which was getting on the bike, led to a very tragic end to this individual's life, and it definitely took away from the exponentially growing trajectory that they were on for the future as well. So there you go. That is going to conclude this episode of Monologue Monday here on my YouTube channel. I know it's not the most bright Monologue Monday episode, but it's something that I think is definitely important, because I think as we kind of go through life and we accumulate more success or money, whatever it may be, we tend to maybe lose our best decision making. That maybe takes a wayside, and we want the more exciting things. We want to take on the more exciting endeavors and so on, and oftentimes they might not be the best decision. And of course, I hope you were able to take something away from this quick episode of Monologue Monday, but I do want to hear from my viewers as well. What are some risky or exciting endeavors that you would absolutely love to take part in, but refuse to just because you are unsure if they will be conducive to your long-term success? Please let me know in the comment section below. And as always, if you have any questions for me personally, or if you'd like to take a look at the financial services that I can provide to you, I've left my email and a link to my company website in the description box below. As always, thank you so much for tuning in today, and of course, happy financing.